We're first going to take a look at Spitfire Audio Labs. This is pretty astonishing what you can get here, all for free from Spitfire Audio. If we go to their website, you want to go to spitfireaudio.com and then go to Labs. You download a bit of software, which is their like installer manager, and you can get all of these instruments. Now, when I first was made aware of this, when I first found Labs, they only had this right here, soft piano. And so it's grown a lot since then. They've got some really, really great stuff. Strings, synth pads, and a whole bunch of sort of more niche things as well. So let's take a look at how that looks in your DAW. You get one VST, and you can simply go through all of the library from this VST. So we can just go through a few of these if you want. The thing about it is I'm not very good at playing, so I'll just play a very small amount and move on to the next one. So a really beautiful piano, especially if you can play better than I can, which is not hard. But if we just unselect that, we can scroll through the rest of the instruments as well. So here's some strings. So really pretty strings there. Then a couple of variations. This is originally a piano processed through a modular synth. Okay, so next is Dext. This has two advantages, one being that it's a fully featured FM synth, but the other is that you can open up all the Yamaha DX7 patches as well. So one advantage of this is immediately you have a massive library going over decades. Now, even if you don't know how FM synthesis works, I still recommend you tinker with this one if you're of that mindset, if you're the kind of person that likes to explore, because FM synthesis is the kind of thing that even if you don't know what you're doing, you can quite easily come up with some really awesome sounds. But as far as percussive, aggressive sounds, FM's got them in spades. Now, I'll get you started here with a quick tip. You've got your oscillator 1 here. You need to start bringing up the level of the subsequent oscillators. And what that does is it introduces the modulation. Now when you play around with the pitch of the second oscillator, so you start to see how that creates your tone, your timbre. Then we can add another one here. And then when you change algorithms, you're changing how all of these operators are interacting with each other. So Dext is mental. Now for something more traditional. This is the OBXD from Disco DSP. They were perhaps more well known back in the day for a Nord emulation they made. But this is free and it's really good. The thing about the OBX is, in my opinion, even if you don't nail the emulation to where it's, very, very close or indistinguishable, it's not that important to, because the architecture of the OBXD is what makes it, at least partly what makes it so interesting. So in the original synth, you had these different voice cards that had either variations or you could intentionally go in and vary the different voices. So what you end up now is a very easy way to just access that right here. And this is similar to a previous emulation I had, which was Sonic Projects, I think it was. And you can also do this on Diva. So what you can end up doing is creating these voice variations, and that makes for a really interesting organic sound. And then you can bring it all together, of course, with Unison right here. So let's take a listen to that. So take a listen to the resonant peaks as I move the filter variation around. So OBXD, really awesome for, well, your analog, vintage analog sounds and effects. And honestly, you don't find that many synths out there that offer this kind of variation per voice, especially in the free domain. And it works cross-platform, and it sounds really good. Honestly, don't know what else you could ask for. Next up is Locomotive. This is here for one reason and one reason alone. The super saw on this is mwah. Fair warning, once or twice I've had a couple strange behavioral issues with this synth, but this is really the only synth on the list that has that kind of question mark. Everything else has behaved perfectly. However, that's super saw. Now, it wouldn't really be a very complete list without Tyrell. This is pretty old now, but there's no question about how good it sounds. And it actually has a decent mod matrix as well. So Tyrell is an amazing synth for analog style synthesis. Okay, so the last pick for me is Surge. Surge was originally created by Vember Audio, who also made a really good sampler if I remember right. Here's the thing about Surge, it is now open source and free. Now what's cool about that is going from Vember Audio to being open source has actually made the synth even better. Now we have things like scalable UI, so you have a number of different UI sizes. I've blown it up here to about the maximum that'll work on my screen. It looks fantastic. It's nice and sharp. The actual way you use a synth is a little strange at first, perhaps, but you quickly get used to it and it makes a lot of sense. So let's take a general look at what Surge has to offer. At the heart of it, it has 3 oscillators per layer, and there's 2 layers, or 2 scenes as they're called here. You can split these, or you can actually run both of them at the same time. So let's take a look at scene A, and of course they are identical. You have 3 oscillators. You've got a mixer down here. Turn them on or off, solo them, and you've got filter routing. Now, each oscillator has a number of sub-controls. So we have sub-level, sub-width, then we have the width of the waveform itself, sync, and unison. Pretty cool. So that's nice. We then can move on from classic waveforms to a wavetable. Now wavetables are extensive in this synth. So these are all the wavetables that are on there at the moment. And each one of these has a number of submenus too. And then the wavetables have their own submenus. So you can saturate them, you can introduce Foreman. And of course, because they're wavetables, you can morph them. Now I can hit tab here, and my LFO is going to start flashing. So I can now just move these to new positions. These are going to be sort of virtual positions, or the positions that the LFO is going to move them to. Take a look at all the different shapes available here in the LFO, plus the LFO envelope generator as well. Okay, so we move along now from wavetables. Next we have window, which is super cool and glitchy and weird. And let's put that on bells. And you can hear that running in reverse. It's really cool. So if we get a ramp, we'll make it unipolar. And then next we can go to just a sine wave, but with feedback. And this is really useful because we can actually implement FM between the oscillators. We'll go to FM2. So this is the kind of thing that I just think is awesome. And then you can also bring in your audio as well because you have a ton of effects. Okay, so from the oscillator section, you go into the filter. There's a number of cool filter modes available as well. Let's actually slow this right down. And we'll introduce our second oscillator. And let's modulate the cutoff. Switch this to sample and hold. And we'll bring in oscillator 3 and we'll just send that straight to filter 2. Let's bring in some of our own reverb on here. We have a wave shaper. So that's Surge. Surge and Dext are probably my two favorites, not because they sound better than anything else, because they're all quite different. So Tyrell, for example, is awesome for analog, emulation. The OBX, as I showed you, has some cool features. But Surge and Dext are just the kind of things that you can dive into and waste an hour with and just come out with some really cool things. And just there's so much to do in here. There's so much to explore. Now, before I go, I just want to point out a couple of things. So I've been using an external reverb for a lot of this video, and it's Native Instruments ROM, and this is simply unbelievably good for a free reverb. Go and get this right now. It will probably be, I don't know, $50 or more after the holiday period ends. So they did this before with Replica. Replica is my most used delay. I use it on every single project. Okay, and I've been using it for years, and I got it free one Christmas a few years ago. So now I've got Replica and ROM for free. So I do suggest you check out Native Instruments this time of year, because they give away some awesome stuff. There is another reverb that came out very recently for free as well, and that was Arturia. They gave away this reverb plate, so let's take a look at that. No thanks. By the way, I think I will have to do a tutorial video exploring ROM, because it's nice and simple, but there's some really cool things in there. So this is Arturia's free plate reverb, and I just think you should go and get this quickly. I don't know how long they're offering it for free over the Christmas period, but honestly, there's a number of really neat things in here. Let's take a listen though to its basic quality, which is beautiful.
You drive me crazy, but that don't make me yours. You drive me crazy, but that don't make me yours. You drive me crazy, but that don't make me yours. You drive me crazy, but that don't make me yours. You drive me crazy, but that don't make me yours.
Wow. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a nice holiday season. Take care.